What's up, everybody? I'm back, and I'm continuing to go over what was being printed in the press at the time of Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey's arrest, at the time their trial was going on, and everything post-trial as well. The first article from today is from April 24th, 2007, and it is from the Madison, Wisconsin State Journal. The headline reads, "Teen Recants Murder Confession. Brendan Dassey says he didn't rape photographer and help his uncle kill her." A 17-year-old accused of raping a 25-year-old photographer and helping his uncle kill her told a jury Monday that he lied to investigators and made up the details of the crime. You can definitely believe he made up the details of the crime, especially what happened inside the trailer, because none of that happened. Brendan Dassey calmly recanted a 3-hour videotaped confession he made about a year ago, and the jury heard last week. He testified that he made up the story, but repeatedly answered, "I don't know why," when he was asked why. Because he was scared. That's why. At one point, Brendan Dassey suggested he got the details from a book he read 3 or 4 years ago. "I believe it was called Kiss the Girls," he told the jury. A prosecutor asked who wrote the book. "I don't remember his name," Brendan Dassey said. The book about competing serial killers was written by James Patterson, was made into a 1997 movie starring Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd. In trying to explain his admissions, Brendan Dassey told the jury Monday that he felt the two investigators sort of made him a promise that if I told the truth, I won't go away for life. During cross-examination, prosecutors replayed 14 minutes of the statement. He closed his eyes on the witness stand and fidgeted with his fingers. The video showed Dassey slouched on a purple love seat in a sheriff's department interview room with a soda nearby. He did not display emotion as he told the detectives he heard Halbach scream for help and saw her naked, handcuffed to a bed in Steven Avery's home. He said he raped her at Avery's suggestion. Steven Avery stabbed and shot Halbach and then burned her body in a pit behind Avery's trailer. He said, "He made me cut her throat," Brendan Dassey told detectives. But on Monday, the 6th day of the trial, Brendan Dassey testified that he didn't see Teresa Halbach at his uncle's home the day she disappeared, and he did not see her alive. "Did you see her body?" "No," he told the jury. Special prosecutor asked Dassey about details in the confession, including a picture he drew for investigators of a black-handled knife he and Avery allegedly used in the attack. "Why did he tell investigators he used the knife to cut her throat?" Fallon asked. "I don't know," Brendan Dassey said. "Mr. Dassey, why did you tell police that the burn pile smelled bad?" Fallon asked. "I don't know," the teen responded. The teen showed no emotion in about 90 minutes of testimony before leaving the stand. He was probably trying to stay composed and act and look professional. Before leaving the stand, Dassey said none of the things he told police happened. "Why should the jury believe you today?" His attorney asked. "Because I didn't really do it," Brendan Dassey said. Dassey's attorneys contend that investigators used promises, lies, suggestions, and leading questions to get Dassey to falsely confess. The next article is from April 24th, 2007, from the Madison Capital Times. The headline is, "Psychologist Calls Nephew Suggestible." A forensic psychologist told the jury today that a 17-year-old accused of raping and murdering a 25-year-old photographer was a slow learner who was passive and subdued, traits that makes a person susceptible to uttering false confessions. Brendan Dassey has a history of learning problems and is not very intelligent. It is of my opinion that he is highly suggestible when being interrogated and responding to leading questions and mild pressure. If in fact that is present, the doctor said, as Dassey's murder trial reached its 7th day, a jury selected in Dane County will decide Brendan Dassey's fate. On the witness stand Monday, Brendan Dassey recanted the confession, telling the jury he made it up and didn't know why. Gordon said people with learning problems, memory problems, and a desire to please can be prone to making false confessions, which he described as admitting to wrongdoing that didn't exist or overstating one's involvement in a crime. Dassey scored 83 on an IQ test, meaning he has intellectual shortcomings, the psychologist said. It is my conclusion that he is in the borderline range of intelligence, the defense witness testified. He has problems with learning, problems with concentration. Dassey's youth, his social withdrawal, his limited life experience, and his memory deficits made him more open to suggestions, especially given the detective's way of questioning, the friendly surroundings of the interrogation, and the more than 3 hours length of it. On the stand Monday, Dassey calmly recanted the confession but repeatedly answered, "I don't know," when asked why. At one point, Brendan Dassey suggested he got it from a book. Of course, we just mentioned Kiss the Girls, which was also made into a movie. The next article is from April 25th, 2007, and is from the Madison, Wisconsin State Journal. The headline reads, "Psychologists disagree on murder confession." One psychologist Tuesday portrayed a 17-year-old accused of rape and murder as a boy with low intelligence, poor memory, few friends, and other traits that made him susceptible to police suggestions and uttering a false confession. But another psychologist told the jury that he never heard of the so-called test of suggestibility and he had serious questions whether it measured anything valuable. You don't even need that test. Just watch the videotape. Watch the false confession. Watch interrogators lead Brendan Dassey in order to get him to say everything he said. Listen to the promises that were promised to Brendan Dassey. That's how you can determine whether that was a false confession or not. The dueling experts came as testimony in the murder trial of Brendan Dassey ended. Closing arguments were set for today. Dassey, a high school sophomore with a 4th grade reading level, has a history of learning problems. Robert Gordon, a defense psychologist, told the Dane County jury on Tuesday, "It is my opinion that he is highly suggestible when being interrogated and responding to leading questions and mild pressure." Gordon bolstered what Dassey's attorneys have claimed. Dassey was a teen of low intelligence who had learning problems in school, and detectives, using promises, lies, and suggestions and leading questions, exploited the boy's vulnerability to being influenced. The prosecutor's psychologist said he first learned of a suggestibility test 2 weeks ago. He was contacted by Special Prosecutor Ken Kratz. "I have serious questions whether this scale measures suggestibility at all. What does it tell us? My opinion is not very much. It may well be a memory test or concentration test or something else. I would not have reached the conclusion that Gordon reached." So those are the articles we are going to go over today. You don't need a test, in my opinion. Just watch the video. Watch the confession. Listen carefully to the way the detectives are phrasing everything. I don't know, and yeah, I know there's a bunch of people out there that have watched it and said they don't see anything wrong with it. And I personally, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I personally do not see how that is possible. I'm never going to try to convince somebody of something else. Everything here is of my opinion and my opinion only. I do not see it possible how somebody could watch that and come to the conclusion that Brendan Dassey wasn't coerced. When you have low intelligence, you can be convinced of everything. And I said in my last video or the video before, I don't know if this is the case or not, but I would not be surprised if Brendan Dassey is on the autism spectrum. I know quite a few people with autism that are somewhere on the spectrum. And people that are higher on the spectrum than others act extremely similar to Brendan Dassey and would also be extremely susceptible to what Brendan Dassey did. I have absolutely no doubt the people I knew that put in the same position that Brendan Dassey was in would also be terrified and would also be believing police that if they were told to do something and did it, they'd be able to go home or go back to school or whatever the case may be, that they would absolutely say anything that the police or detectives or whoever wanted them to say. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that those investigators led. I believe that they were doing it so that they could get Steven Avery, and they didn't care who else they brought down with them. They found Brendan Dassey, who had a low IQ, and were like, we can get this kid to say whatever we want in order to be able to convict Steven Avery, and that's exactly what they did. It's absolutely sad. I don't know how those investigators sleep at night. I don't know if they have kids or whatever, but I can't imagine that if their children or child were in the same position Brendan Dassey was in, that anything that happened to Brendan Dassey would have happened to their children or anybody in their family, their wives, their husbands, whoever. It just wouldn't have happened. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.